Oh, hello there. I'm here to tell you about the 2050 events coming to Daytona Beach, Florida. It's the first inaugural event and will be combining anime, sci-fi, film, video games, and more. There will be a video game tournament featuring the Call of Duty Advanced Warfare game and Halo 5 Guardians. And speaking of Halo 5, the game is due out to be released come Tuesday, October 27th, and it recently had an exclusive interview with Steve Downes, the voiceover actor for Master Chief. This man needs no introduction, and even though I just gave him one, I figured I'd point that out anyways. Let's give him a big hand. So, how you doing? Are you looking forward to coming to Florida?
Yeah, big time. How's it going down there?
It's mild weather, and you might have something to look forward to as far as because you're on the coast.
Well, no, I'm in Chicago actually, so I guarantee you I'll have a lot to look forward to.
Yeah.
That's not going to be an issue. How are you doing as far as attendance? Do you have any idea yet?
Attendance, I'm not sure yet. No one's had told me about how many are attending at the event.
Right.
It's because it's an inaugural event of its own kind.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
it's supposed to be I think they're going to do an even swap. It's not going to be focused on any particular type of genre. They're kind of doing an easily diversified across the board types, sci-fi and
Right.
all that jazz.
Yeah. Well, we're looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I know Jen is as well, and yeah, it's going to be fun, and it'll be. I'm pretty sure we're going to have a good time.
Oh, great. Well, anyhow, I just wanted to kind of talk to you about, what you have going on at this point. Kind of start off with, kind of how you got your start. I understand you. I kind of did a little research on YouTube about, I saw a little documentary how you're getting up at 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. to get to the station.
Not doing that anymore.
Right. Yeah. That's what I realized. And I was kind of curious, how were you, approached for Master Chief? Did they, was it kind of like an audition, or they just approached you at the station, or just after? They did think you had a commanding voice presence that led you to that role.
Well, to be honest with you, I did not audition for it. When Halo Combat Evolved was being put together, of course, Bungie was the company behind it. And at the time, they were located here in Chicago, and so they were sort of familiar with me because of my presence on the radio. So I had been contacted to do a game for them about a year earlier. A little PC game called Septerra Core.
Mm-hmm.
It had a small little role in it. It was nothing big. But, a year later, I got a call back asking if I would come in to read for this new game they were putting together called Halo. And of course, I came in and we talked about it and, who the character was, who Master Chief was, and that kind of thing. And off we went. And so it was really... it's funny because it's probably the biggest role of my life, and it's one of the few that I never auditioned for.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of a coincidence, ironic, I guess, in a way.
Yeah, I understand in the industry. Sometimes it's luck, or sometimes it's good timing.
Yeah,
So,
well, it's a lot about good timing. I'm a big fan of good timing.
Now, I was just curious, were you ever asked to do roles for characters you didn't particularly care for when they told you about the character?
I would say no. Nothing pops in mind. I mean, to be honest with you, most of the voiceover I do has been, and to this day is not really gaming, with the exception of Halo. I could, count on one hand, the number of other games I've been involved with. So most of the stuff that I've done in my career, other than radio, was commercial voiceover. And some narration and that kind of thing. So, even though those are sort of roles that you're playing, they're not as clearly defined as a character in a video game. So, but I would say no, I've never I can't think that maybe I shouldn't say that. I suppose there have been a few roles I've auditioned for that I thought either, I'm not really right for this, or I don't really like doing it. So, but they were just auditions and they never got past that stage for me. But beyond that, any role's a good role, really, as long as it's something that's fun and interesting, and that the character is interesting. I'm all for it.
I mean, as far as I researched from you, that you kind of do solemn characters. Are you open to looking for, like, I don't know, more comical sounding characters? Like, let's give you an idea, like, like the Simpsons type characters, or or South Park type stuff. Those kinds of voices, like, where you had to actually kind of change your voice around a little higher pitch.
Well, I've done sort of different approaches other than what I do for Master Chief. But in all honesty, I don't have a wide range of voices. There are, guys, that I know, and probably guys and women that you've heard who have a tremendous range of different characters. In fact, the one that comes to mind is a friend of mine who lives here in Chicago, Tim Dabo, who is the voice of Guilty Spark in the first 3 Halo games. Right. And Timmy has a great range. I mean, he has a number of different, sort of personas that he can tap. And I mean, sometimes I hear him on things I don't even know it's him. I'm really not that kind of voiceover. I have, some different approaches, and I have done some, comic things, but they're usually sort of in sort of a sarcasm type role or that type of thing. But that's sort of big. But hey, you know what? I mean, are you kidding? I'd love to be on The Simpsons.
Yeah.
I think Master Chief has a place there. I think we can find a place for him there.
Oh, they did a crossover of Family Guy and The Simpsons. Why not Halo and The Simpsons?
Bring it on.
Now, do you ever actually do your join colleagues at your own conventions, like voiceover conventions, where you kind of do like a think tank or a meeting of the minds?
Well, I think just by not intentionally, but certainly by design. I mean, you can't help but sort of swap war stories and that kind of thing. And so I think while they may not be formal in that regard, it's great when we get together at conventions because we sort of get to, most of the time it's the only time we see each other, because voiceover, especially gaming voiceover, is sort of a solitary profession. Usually you're working alone, or you're certainly rarely working with other talent. So when we do have a chance to get together, which is usually at conventions, first of all, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It has a tendency to get a little out of control from time to time. And but yes, I think there is some swapping of stories. In fact, I did a con earlier this year. It was over Memorial Day, MomoCon in Atlanta, and I had a chance to meet and work with one of my personal voiceover idols, which is Keith David, who is the voice of the Arbiter in Halo, and has done a million other games, and of course a great actor and all that kind of stuff. So we got to do panels together, but it was sort of a personal, I was the geek in this particular role, and it was just a blast to meet him and sort of get how he approaches different characters and that kind of thing. And I really did enjoy it.
And now, do you, like, say for instance, if someone's trying to get into the field of voiceover work, what do you recommend they would try or attempt to do?
Well, the first thing that really comes to mind is voiceover is especially gaming voiceover, but any voiceover, you're really, what it's about is acting. So if you're looking to get into it, if you think this is something that you might like to do, my first suggestion would be take acting classes. And the best acting classes you can take are improv classes, because with voiceover, as opposed to stage or on camera, most of the time when you go in for an on camera role or a stage role, you're given at least some preparation. You're given a script maybe a few days ahead of time that you can go over. You're given a storyline and that kind of thing. With voiceover, 9 times out of 10, you're not given anything until the day you show up to do the audition or the gig, and so you need to really be able to think on your feet and tap characters quickly. Identify characters quickly and tap them. And I think the best training for that kind of thing is improv. But any kind of acting class, as opposed to voiceover classes, and I kind of say that with air quotes, but I think you're really better served because especially this day and age, it's not about necessarily having a deep voice or a sexy voice or that kind of thing. It's really about having character in your voice. And I think where you can learn that best is through sort of developing your acting chops.
It actually kind of reminds me, upon comparison with your voice, I'm come to, I'm not sure, the man who does Optimus Prime.
Yeah.
I forgot, but I kind of see a pretty similar. They seem to be similar in nature to what you do as far as how solemn the character is, and he does good work too. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him or have ever met him.
Well, I first of all, I take that as a high compliment because he does great work. But yeah, and that it's interesting in that sort of the character of Optimus Prime is obviously exaggerated in a lot of ways, needless to say, but there's a high drama there. Peter Cullen is the guy who did Optimus Prime, I believe, in the early cartoon days, and then
Right.
and then was also brought in for the role for the movies. But yeah, he's solemn, but there's no doubt about what his emotions and intentions are. I think if there's a difference between the way Optimus Prime would be approached. Like if I was to do it, Optimus Prime is, allowed to express emotions a little more than Master Chief is. Right. Master Chief's emotions are expressed by in more subtle ways, I suppose. Whereas Optimus Prime can be out there, and that kind of thing, and Master Chief really isn't. So it's really two different approaches. But I see what you're saying in terms of the similarity of our styles in sort of a general way.
Yes, I assume Master Chief, it keeps everything pretty close to the vest.
Yeah. But you have to, and especially as happened in Halo 4, especially, you have to be able to convey, he can't be without emotion. I think the interesting thing about Master Chief is that he has a difficult time expressing it. It's not that he doesn't feel it. Mm-hmm. It's that he has a difficult time in figuring out how to let it out. Or I think maybe there might be sort of a fear in the Chief in letting it out because he's afraid if he does, all hell's going to break loose. And you know what? He may be right.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Now, I was kind of curious, his relationship with Cortana, is I'm somewhat familiar with that now. Now, how does he compare? Does he have any close relationships with his own comrades as opposed to AI?
Well, I don't think anything as compared to Cortana. That's a unique and special relationship between the two of them. I think he does have deep feelings for his fellow soldiers and that kind of thing, and feels very that it is his duty to protect them. He's the one that 9 times out of 10 is leading them into battle, and I think he's always taken it very seriously that it's his job to lead them in. It's also his job to get them out, and so I think he does have an emotional connection to his fellow Spartans, if you will. I think he sort of tolerates the human aspect of people.
Because it's tongue said tongue in cheek, right?
Exactly. Yeah, definitely.
With Cortana, now they're starting to lead her into the whole Windows 10 thing.
Yeah.
I'd be curious to. I wonder if that was done deliberately, so we could have some kind of connection to who when we voice our search queries.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it is kind of interesting to have, Cortana's in your head now the same way she's in Master Chief's head.
Right. Now, I saw that we have Halo 5 Guardians coming out
Yeah.
October 27th, and
Week from today.
yeah, yes, it's coming up pretty quickly. And by the time you're at the 2050 events in Daytona, it'll be already out. Now, they did some press were able to show I think the first three missions
Yeah.
of it. Are you able to reveal? Because I did see that he had an interaction or maybe a vision uh, when he came to. He was back with his comrades. Uh, can you tell me about your experience with that? Because I've also seen he had some kind of the shakes going on too in the animation.
Uh, to answer your question, Tony, no, I can't.
Okay,
Or as I like to say, yeah, Tony, I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you.
right. Yeah, I know what you mean.
The problem with that is I've said that so many times. Most people are willing to take me up on it, but to be honest with you, I really, the bad news is I really can't discuss anything about Halo 5 and the events of Halo 5 yet. The good news is that we're all going to know next Tuesday, and even the more exciting news is, as you mentioned, that it will be, and Jen Taylor's going to be with me, of course, in Daytona. It will be our first appearance after the release of Halo 5. So, we'll both have sort of a huge sigh of relief as to be able to discuss the game a little more openly. But to be honest with you, there's really nothing I can tell you other than what you've already seen. And 343 has had, several trailers and some pretty exciting stuff that has been out there. But beyond, you'll have to draw your own conclusions in terms of what you've seen out there.
So, are you guys going to have? I'm not sure. Are you going to have a panel out there too?
I'm sure we will. I don't know I haven't really been given the details, but that's usually part of the deal is we'll have a panel to discuss, all things Halo.
Oh, good deal. Good
Yeah.
deal. Now, since are there any future plans for you that's coming up? Any opportunities at this point?
Well, nothing in the gaming world. I am, there's quite a few conventions sort of on the horizon that I'm looking forward to going to. It's very interesting that the whole sort of this cottage industry of gaming and anime conventions is just exploding all over the world, and it's pretty exciting to be have a small part in it or be able to go and meet the fans and have a chance to talk about the game and voiceover and that kind of thing. And it's so I do look forward to doing it. But in terms of I don't think I did mention, I recently retired from the radio business. I had hosted a radio show here in Chicago for the last 14, 15 years or so, and have been in the business for a long time, and have picked this year to let that go, mainly because I was ready, and also because there was a lot of work involving Halo 5, and it was just getting more and more difficult to try to do both. Consequently, I've had a lot of time off. That's what I'm trying to say. And, because I really finished up most of my work with Halo 5, several months ago, and we've had a few things going on here and there, but the heavy lifting of that was really finished up a while ago. So I'm just enjoying not having to get up at 4:00 in the morning and have a little fun. And we've been doing some traveling and that kind of thing. So I've kind of put, other than Halo, I've sort of put the other ventures on the sideline here for the moment. That'll change next year, I'm sure. But for right now, I'm just kind of enjoying the time off.
Nice. Maybe you have your own future podcast. You never know.
Never doubt. That's that's right. I've only been off a few months, so I'm sort of enjoying not having to do that. But that can change, and you're right. That's something down the line that could be a very good possibility.
Now, do you do some of your voice work at home, or no, are you called out on site nowadays?
Well,
When you did your work
yeah,
recently.
most of uh, most of my audition work. My wife is also a voiceover, and we have a studio here in the house. And most of our work, our audition work, is done here. But and we do some jobs out of here. It's certainly it's capable of doing that, but most of the time they like you to come to the studio and work with their people and their equipment and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, most of the time we're going to the studio to do the final work. But the convenient part of it is we have a studio here in the house, so we can audition in our pajamas.
Yeah.
So, it has its advantages.
You can kick back and
Yeah.
that's do whatever.
Cup of coffee, whatever. So it is nice in that way.
Yeah. Well, it was nice talking with you, Mr. Downs. I appreciate you taking time and joining us and our fans. Is this your first time coming to Florida? Or you've been to Florida a few times for conventions?
I've been to Florida a few times. This will be my first time in Daytona Beach, which I'm looking forward to. But I've done so. I've been done conventions in Fort Lauderdale and Orlando and Jacksonville and Miami and that kind of thing, but never in Daytona Beach. So I'm really looking forward to. And the exciting thing is, as I said, it'll be nice to because this whole year. There's been so much that we, excuse me, can't talk about. It'll be nice to finally be able to, not be so guarded in our conversations about Halo 5 and that kind of thing. So I'm looking forward to that. But and I know this is the inaugural event for 2050, so that's pretty exciting. And I think we're going to have a great time.
Well, that's good. Yeah.